Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be reacting to
How turkey became so expensive so fast.
I need to delete this video I made a couple of years ago because it is no longer accurate.
Why is
I
turkey
remember
so cheap?
him.
Yeah, we've seen him before.
Why is turkey so cheap right now? And I mean cheap. Because today, compared to just a couple years ago, turkey is actually expensive. Back in 2021,
Combo donor chicken lunch, $2.80. That same lunch deal today is now 400 Turkish lira, which is over $10.
if you visited
That's
Turkey 5 years ago, it felt like a
crazy.
bargain. $10 could get you a full meal, a taxi ride, and still leave change. But now,
A simple lunch in Istanbul can now cost you around 400 lira, maybe even 5 or 600 lira. That's about $10 to $15.
rent prices have more than tripled in some cities. And the Turkish lira, it's lost over 80% of its value in the past 5 years. But how did this happen?
I think it's a combination of factors. So one, yes, the lira lost value and the price has gone up. So to outsiders now it feels more expensive. To them, from how I understand it, it's similar because their wages have gone up too. So it's kind of like,
Inflation is right now is very bad. Not only inflation, everything.
Istanbul is very high price right now. The prices are really high.
Imagine your wages have stayed the same, but your currency is losing its value and prices everywhere you go are surging.
And when prices double every year, basic groceries become totally unaffordable.
Alıştık, alışkanlık oldu artık.
To Turkish lira going high, so this is what is this.
The economic crisis here has resulted in many locals trying to move abroad.
Usually they are going to Europe.
I have too many
So
friends,
I guess,
and also my
I
cousin.
guess they're not getting a raise.
I don't know, you guys said that it is, the raises are kind of, that it's not like the lira is, the inflation is serious, but the wages are rising too, so it's not like, because I feel like at the way the inflation is going, if the wages didn't rise, people would be literally on the street at this point. Because we saw that we did a video on the inflation in Turkey, it's ridiculous.
Going to Europe side, in Europe, in Germany, and also Belgium, French, and sometimes
Like, I'm sure the wages are not rising at inflation level, so it is getting harder and harder, but not to a point where like inflation, the wages are flat and inflation just goes sky high. I don't think it's like that bad.
going to United States.
Since the inflation crisis, it's been really hard for locals who earn their wages in Turkish lira. But for those coming in with US dollars, it was cheap. But now that's changed for even tourists too. And tourism had become a lifeline for Turkey's economy, which welcomes over 50 million visitors a year.
But now there are some early signs that tourism numbers are going down.
Before 4 years ago, tourism in Turkey is best in the world. Right now, is not good.
But how did Turkey become so expensive so fast?
In 2021, I went to this ATM in Istanbul.
All right, so this is about 500 Turkish lira, which is about 67 US dollars. But today, 200 Turkish lira doesn't even equal $13.
That's because the value of its lira keeps crashing more and more and more.
You know, 1 year ago in dollar, 18 Turkish lira, $1 18 Turkish lira. Right now, $1 38 Turkish lira. I think in next year, maybe 70 or 85, 80.
If the value of your currency keeps going down, imagine how hard it becomes to afford anything that you're importing. Natural gas, cars, sugar, flour, iron, steel, phones. Whether you're a business or a consumer, you're gonna feel the pain.
200 lira is the largest banknote in Turkey, and in 2019, this was equal to about $35. But today, this is just equal to about $5. And that means that 5 Turkish lira today is only equal to about 13 cents.
So how did this happen? Back in 2018, $1 was
That's
equal to 4.5
crazy.
Turkish lira. Today, $1
Yes.
is nearly 40 Turkish lira. So why did the lira collapse? One big reason is the president's unorthodox economic policies. Erdogan believes that high interest rates cause inflation, which is the opposite of what most economists say, because higher interest rates make borrowing more expensive. So fewer people take out loans for houses, cars, or businesses. People spend less and save more, which cools down the economy and helps bring prices or inflation back down. So while other countries raise rates to cool inflation, Turkey has cut them. The result? Inflation exploded. According to Turkey's official statistics agency, annual inflation in 2022 peaked at 85%.
That's
Now
good
in
for
2023
companies.
and 2024, inflation did come down slightly.
I don't know if it's good for anybody, because if
So,
You-
well, right now, I'm pretty sure they're gonna raise them back up at some point.
because
They
like
can't say like that.
you make more money, yes, but everything costs more. So it's like you're at the same spot where you were before. It's not like it's good to make more money when the inflation is manageable, so everything is cost around the same. But you make more money, that's good. But if you make more money and everything goes up at the same rate, this is like staying at the same place is just looking stupid in front of the whole world.
But still stayed above 50%. So when prices are going up so much, millions have a hard time paying rent or buying groceries. A loaf of bread that cost 2 lira in 2018 now costs between 10 to 15 lira. A bottle of olive oil, over 300 lira. Wages did not keep up. Now, Turkey is no stranger to inflation, though. Things got so bad that in 2005, the country made the
He's
rare
younger
decision
here.
to just cut off zeros from its currency. For decades, especially in the 1980s and 1990s, Turkey had crazy high inflation. Prices rose so fast that by the early 2000s, everyday purchases like groceries or a cup of tea could cost millions of lira. At one point, the exchange rate had ballooned to around 1.6 million Turkish lira per US dollar, making basic transactions super confusing. So to fix this, the Turkish government introduced a new version of its currency. That meant 1 million old lira was now worth just 1 new lira. So a bottle of water went from like 1.5 million lira to just 1.5. This move was meant to rebuild public confidence, simplify accounting and pricing, and just signal that Turkey was serious about fighting inflation. And for a while it worked.
Yeah, that look
Inflation
feels
cooled down in the late
different.
2000s, and the Turkish economy stabilized, at least temporarily.
Enflasyondan dolayı, pahalılıktan dolayı eskiye göre daha kötü. Yani 2011'den sonra 2014-2015 gibi iyi değil yani.
But hold on, why did Turkey become so expensive for tourists? Because yes, locals earning Turkish lira have been hit the hardest from the beginning of all this because their money lost value, but even tourists with strong dollar are seeing it too. So why is that? Well, that's because Turkey isn't cheap to run anymore. We live in a global economy. When the Turkish lira crashed, the cost of imported goods like gas, food, medicine, and car parts went up a lot. And since Turkey buys many of these things from other countries using dollars or euros, Turkish companies had to raise their prices in lira and in dollars. Also, with inflation so high, even hotels, restaurants, and tour operators keep adjusting prices upward just to survive. That means tourists don't get the same cheap deal they used to. So while the exchange rate might look good, prices inside Turkey have gone up even faster. And that's why even with US dollars, Turkey doesn't feel cheap anymore. So now let's talk about housing for locals.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. If the prices in Turkey have gone up even faster, that means people are making more money because small businesses, they raise prices. Well, they're not making more money, they're making the same amount. The same amount relative to inflation. Like they're keeping up. The prices are rising because they need to make like a correlated amount to keep up with the standard of living. So it's just a silly situation. I'm no economist, but yeah, maybe time to raise those interest rates.
One of the hardest hit areas. In 2020, you could rent a decent flat in Istanbul for 2,000 to 3,000 lira, but now that same flat can cost 15,000 lira or more.
For a month's salary, you can pay only rent.
Why? Wealthy foreigners started buying Turkish property because it was cheap in dollars or euros. Domestic investors bought real estate as a hedge against inflation, and the government encouraged property purchases for citizenship programs, especially by Gulf and Russian buyers. But for everyday Turks, many were priced out of their own cities. This wasn't just about economics, it was also political. President
That's like the same in every country nowadays. It's the same issue
It's just
everywhere.
interesting the timing. It all seems like the same time.
Same time, yeah.
Erdogan's government has fired multiple central bank governors who disagreed with his policies and tried to control monetary policy directly from the presidency. And each removal triggered sharp drops in the lira and the stock market, and that fueled investor anxiety over the independence of the central bank. International investors lost trust. In 2021, foreign direct investment dropped by 38% compared to 2015. And by 2023, major rating agencies had downgraded Turkey's debt to junk status. The country looked risky, the lira kept falling, and confidence kept falling. This is where it really hurts regular people.
I was talking to a worker here in Istanbul, and he was saying that minimum wage right now is about 22,000 lira, which is about $560 per month. But he said that's, really the bottom level of salaries, maybe 10%. He says a more common average salary would be about 30,000 lira per month, and that's going to be around $780 per month.
Right now, you are going to any shopping. This price is super expensive, and also sometimes you don't see anyone. Maybe do you want to buy sugar? You are going to shopping. You don't see the sugar. Sometimes it's a problem.
The food is expensive.
Wow.
So they have deficits. I say they can't import. I mean, it makes
So it's
sense.
food
yeah,
shortages.
Shortages, yeah.
Museum tickets are a little bit expensive.
Gas, electricity, and heating prices soared. In winter, many families couldn't afford to fully heat their homes. University students were forced to live 6 to 8 people in a flat just to afford rent. Doctors, teachers, even engineers were leaving the country for better wages abroad. And the brain drain is real. According to the Turkish Medical Association,
I
more
can
than 10,000
imagine.
doctors applied to work overseas just between 2021 and 2024. And ironically, while things got harder for locals, tourism boomed here. Around 12% of Turkey's GDP is attributed to tourism. But now tourists, especially going to places like Antalya, are questioning the value.
The moment I heard they charge in euros in Antalya, I was out. Like, I'm not leaving my resort. I will pay for all-inclusive, go to Antalya for a week, nothing more, nothing less.
Hotel price is very expensive, and also you're going to any restaurant, this price is not good.
Evet, doğru söylüyor. Gittikçe daha çok pahalaşıyor. O yüzden turistler kaçıyor.
There have been small signs that some tourists are booking other places now because of the price increases. But of course, that depends on
Where? Everywhere price is rising. I don't think that's what we see all over. The Greece prices are rising. Spain, same thing.
how strong your currency is.
Simple people like me, like her, they're most impacted. I think the tourists, it's not much important for tourist people because they come for 1 week, spend money and go back. It's more difficult for people who stay here, live here.
So in mid-2023, Turkey's central bank finally reversed course. New leadership began raising interest rates aggressively from around 8% to over 45% by late 2024. This helped
Wow.
stabilize the lira
8%
a
is
bit, and
scary
inflation
here.
45%?
Yeah.
Nobody's borrowing. Like, nobody.
has slowed. But the damage had already been done. Savings were wiped out, trust in institutions was broken, and millions were struggling to afford basic life. For now, Turkey is trying to win back investors.
I think it sucks the most for people who had a lot in savings. I think for people that work day to day, it sucks, yeah. But if imagine you have let's say 1 million lira in savings, so that could have maybe back in the day that could have bought you a house.
Yeah.
Now that same million cannot even buy you a car. That's crazy.
That
Investor
can make people
confidence,
go
but
mad.
real
Yeah.
recovery, it'll take years, not months. Turkey's story offers a powerful lesson for
I
any
think that's
country
why
that
a
when
lot of people, they don't like to save. They say spend it.
Well, invest in the stocks, because the stocks go up the same way. So that's fighting the inflation. I mean, yeah, I guess don't save it. I think the worst decision, not financial advice, is probably just keeping cash, not making money. I think that's the worst decision. Just if you put it under the mattress, that's the worst decision because that is gonna depreciate in any country. Any country has inflation. It's just not such rates.
country loses control over its currency and monetary policy, chaos can break out. The cost of everything imported rises dramatically. Economic policies have tangible consequences, and ignoring inflation can lead to more chaos. Stability can't be faked, and while a country might attract tourists or hype, if the local population is struggling to afford basic living costs, the system could ultimately break down.
Let me know in the comments what you think. Would you still visit?
Wow.
Interesting. Yeah, sad situation.
Yeah.
It's
Can I see the
crazy.
comments?
I wish they got their stuff under control. Maybe if there's a change in the president.
But it's interesting to hear the perspective of others that say, "Oh, but the people are getting raises. It's not that bad."
Well, even like the people he interviewed, I feel like he dramatized it more than the people that interviewed. Like the people that interviewed, they were saying, yeah, it's not good, but they weren't like, oh, this is the end. The way the guy was saying is, oh, this is horrible. The people he interviewed, they were like, yeah, of course it's not good. Obviously, nobody is saying it's good, but they weren't like saying, oh, it's tragic. It's like, this is the fall of the country. They weren't like that dramatic as he was. I'm an American living in Istanbul. Something else to note is the quality of food products has gone down tremendously. The prices of fruits and vegetables are high, but the quality doesn't warrant the high price. It seems they export all the good produce and keep the crappy stuff for Turkish residents. Whoosh, that's unfortunate. The fuck are those McDonald's prices in Antalya? 20 euros for combo meal? That can't be this real.
That sounds like at the airport.
It was at the airport, yeah. The problem we have is because most people always thought that you only need a good job to become rich. These billionaires are operating a whole nother player that many don't know. Not really sure what this comment is trying to say.
I guess the honest way to make an honest living is not enough to live.
Maybe that, or maybe that. Oh, you only need a good job is not enough. You also need to invest smart. Maybe that's. But I feel like that's no. At least where I'm from, also wasn't taught to invest. It was just a job, work. Like the investment.
You get a good job and you should be fine.
Yeah, the investment is not really taught. So I don't know if that's just unique to Turkey.
Guys, of course, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord, and as always, share as much kindness as possible. Bye.